Good morning and welcome back to the Red Mic. Happy Friday! We made it! These Red Mic messages are leadership and life lessons I picked up from 25 years as a public servant, 16 years as a youth football coach and scouting volunteer, and 10 years as a mediocre athlete with far more heart than actual physical ability. Today's Red Mic message: overcoming fear. It is a good leadership tool. Fear is the enemy of progress. And it doesn't matter if you're on the field, in the workplace, leading a team. The biggest threat to your success isn't failure, it's fear of failure. And it's a continuous theme, not just in leadership, but in and not just in pop culture, but also traditional, literature and whatnot. You have to remember that history favors the bold. Winston Churchill uh, standing firm when his predecessor clearly did not, in the face of Adolf Hitler and his minions. Theodore Roosevelt in World War II, largely confined to a wheelchair, but continuing to lead in a bold manner during World War II. A lot of people would have hesitated, but and there's no doubt in my mind that they felt fear. But just like old Mark Twain said, it's the, and this is, I'm paraphrasing, this is not an exact quote, but overcoming your fear, acting in spite of your fear. That's that's what it's all about. But let's apply this to your life. Maybe you got a project, a big project with high stakes. Maybe you need to tell your boss, hey, what we're doing is not working. Yes, we've already blown a significant amount of this budget, but we've got to change directions and we got to do it now. That takes bravery. That takes a degree of boldness. You've got to be able to go in there and do it. Look it in the eye and say, not today, not going to happen. And yeah, fear's going to creep in. What if I'm making the wrong choice? What if I look silly? What if, you know, get rid of the what ifs. What if I fail? What if I don't do that? What if is, it's a fearful statement. Here's the truth of the matter. Every leader worth his or her salt faces fear, but the best ones refuse to let it define them, refuse to let it decide for them what they're going to do, or in some cases, what they're not going to do. I'm a comic book geek. I've mentioned it before. Uh, Big fan of the Green Lantern Corps. Hal Jordan is the classic Green Lantern, of course. They overcome fear. Fear is the enemy of willpower. And the stronger your will, the less power fear has over you. Over on the Marvel side of the spectrum, you've got Daredevil, the man without fear. Well, he still has fear, but he doesn't let it control him. He doesn't avoid danger. He steps into it. He knows that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's overcoming, it's acting despite your fear. If you're a Christian or if you're Jewish, the Bible mentions fear a lot, both the Old and the New Testament, um, at least 300 times, from what I understand. What line is it? Fear not. Two-word sentence. Fear not. Hundreds of times. It's a reminder that yes, fear is the default human response to the unknown, to the things that are scary. But the difference between those who rise and those who fall, it's overcoming that fear. So what do you do as a leader when fear shows up? Recognize it, acknowledge it internally, but don't let it paralyze you. If fear is driving your decisions, stop and ask yourself, what would I do if I weren't afraid? And then do that. Act decisively. Fear thrives in hesitation. Leaders who wait too long to be certain sometimes never make a move. They're just paralyzed. That's a fear response as well. Lead by example. Your team is always watching you. If you crumble under pressure, they will too. If you push forward with confidence, they will too. Failure is part of growth. When I was a kid, the NASA programs, the rockets would go up and then they'd break apart on purpose, the separation stage. And then the parts would just tumble to earth and they weren't recovered, I don't believe, and they weren't ever used again. Then along comes Elon Musk and says, you know what? SpaceX, we're going to figure out how to reuse these rockets. And everyone's like, you're crazy, Elon. And he had to have been fearful that he was going to look silly and, you know, rockets blew up and, different tests didn't work. But how many of you saw, basically those great big huge tweezers grab that rocket and set it down where it needed to go? That's just amazing. You don't accomplish something like that if you're afraid of failure. Again, fear of failure is worse than actual failure itself. Everybody fails. Just don't be afraid. I know a guy who is afraid to do parts of his job because early in his career, he got slapped around, metaphorically, doing those jobs. And now he's paralyzed. And it breaks my heart because the guy has tons of potential, but he's never going to move any higher than where he is right now because fear has completely gripped him. Don't be like that. Take the risk. Leadership is not avoiding fear. It's making it irrelevant. It's staring and it's in the eyes and say, you know what? You're going to blink because I'm not. I got this and you're not going to scare me out of it. So you do the job, you make the decisions, you take the risk, and it's not because you're fearless, but because the mission is more important than your feelings. So the next time you're faced with fear at work, in your personal life, in your relationships with, significant others, your kids, your parents, whatever it is, remember this: fear is natural. Courage is a choice. That's today's Red Mike message. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you find it helpful. I really do. I appreciate you being here. I want you to go out there today and just knock the cover off the ball. Make Friday yours. Jump into the weekend. Be bold. Be decisive. Don't let fear stop you. I'd appreciate a like, a follow, and a share. I'll see you again on Monday, and don't forget, life is short. Drink the bourbon.